All right, geometry students, welcome back to our another day of some remote learning here. Yesterday we did lesson 4.2, and I hope those crazy formulas that I gave you guys on lesson 4.2 didn't turn out too bad for you. They're kind of strange at first, but once you plug the numbers in, they're okay. So let's kind of review before we get into 4.3. 4.3 is going to talk about law of sines. Let's jump back to 4.2 right quick. So 4.2, we introduce law of cosines. Okay, and what law of cosines is used for, it's a way to find missing angles and sides of triangles using trig ratios when we don't have right triangles. So if we have acute triangles or obtuse triangles, all right, and it works when we know a few pieces of information. We need to know either a side angle side, or we need to know side, 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 all three sides. Okay, that's the time it's going to work. Okay, when we don't have these two pieces of information, we don't use law of cosines. Instead, we're going to use law of sines because it'll help us solve other triangles when we don't have a side angle side or a side side side. Okay, so we'll take a look at what law of sines looks like and when we actually go about using it. All right, so here's our formulas that we have. So law of sines, notice how our triangle looks very similar to how it was in 4.2. It's labeled the exact same way. You have your angles, and then you have your sides that are opposite of your angles. Like little a is opposite of big B, or little a is opposite of big A. Same with B, and same with C. All right, our angles and our sides, our opposite sides, are labeled across from each other. Okay, and here's how the law of sines formula works. Each one of these is a ratio, a fraction, and what it is, it's the sine of A. So the sine calculation for angle A, whatever that is, over top of the length of A, so the length of this side here, is equal to the calculation of sine B over top of the length of B, and is equal to the calculation of sine C over top of the length of C. Okay, so each one of these fractions are equal to each other. Okay, and that's how this formula is going to work. And I'll show you how we'll go about setting this up and how it's going to come into play for some calculations. But each three of these fractions are equal to each other. All right, and where we use the law of sines to solve a triangle, all right, so solving a triangle just means you're finding your missing angles and your missing sides. All right, that's what solving a triangle is. You're finding missing angles and missing sides. So it works if we know an angle side angle, or an angle angle side, or if we have a side side angle. Okay, so it works if we have those three options. All right, so let's take a look at our first triangle we're going to solve using law of sines. Okay, so here's our very first triangle, and take a look at the three pieces of information that they're giving us. We know an angle, and a side. All right, so law of cosines wouldn't work for this one, but law of sines is going to work. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, just like we did in 4.2, is we're going to relabel this triangle with the lettering for the law of sines. All right, so we'll just cross off these letters. It just helps you stay organized. So let's just call this A, this one C, and this one B. Okay, and then we'll go about and label our sides. So across from angle A, we're going to have little a. Across from angle B, we're going to have little b. And across from C, we're going to have little c. Okay, so we got all of our sides and all of our angles labeled. All right, the next thing you want to do is let's take a look. Let's organize the information that we know. Okay, so let's make a list of everything that we have. So start with big A. Okay, so angle A is 39 degrees. All right, and we're just listing out all the information we know. Okay, so then let's take a look at side A. Side A has a length of 40. All right, let's next go to our B's. So angle B has a size of 32 degrees. Little b, side B, we don't know what that is yet, so we'll leave that blank. Angle C, we're not told what angle C is, but we can quickly calculate what angle C is because all three angles of a triangle have to add up to what? All right, I hope you're thinking 180 degrees. So we know what two of them are. So we can find out what angle C is just doing some quick, simple math here. So 39 and 32 together, okay, gives us 71. So far we have 71. Take that away from 180. And we end up with 109. Okay, so now we know what angle C is. That is going to be 109. All right. The side C, we don't know what that length is, so we'll just leave that blank. Okay. So take a look at the information you have, and you want to look for a complete set of information from your letters. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is I have angle A and side A. I have a complete set of information for A because I know what the angle size is and I know what the length is. All right, if I'm looking at B, I know what the angle of B, what the size is going to be, but I don't know what the length is. Okay, so first, let's go about finding the length of side B. Okay, so we have complete information for A's, and for B, we're just missing what the side length is. Okay, so let's go back to our formulas and let's take a look at how we're going to use that. Okay, so if I'm looking at my formulas, I have enough information to completely fill out this fraction here with numbers, all right? Because I can calculate sine A over top of the length of A, all right? And then for this fraction here, I have enough information because I know what angle B is, but I don't know what side B is. So what I'm going to use is just this part of the formula here to set up some proportions like we've already done back in Unit 2 and Unit 3 to end up solving for B. Okay, so I'm going to take this information, this part of the formula here, to calculate what the length of B is going to come out to. Okay, so if I set that up, all right, it's going to look like this. We're going to say sine A over top of the length of A is equal to sine B over top of the length of B. Okay, so we're just going to set up a proportion with this part right here. All right, now we're just going to fill in our information with the numbers we have. So for angle A, I have 39 degrees. So sine of 39 degrees over top of the length of A, which is 40, is equal to sine of angle B, and angle B is 32 degrees, over top of the length of B, and that's what we don't know. So we'll just leave that with a B right there. Okay, so there's our proportion setup. And then just like we did in our previous units, we're going to cross multiply, set up an algebra problem to solve this. Okay, so if we cross multiply, all right, so once we have it set up like this, then we're going to cross multiply just like we've done in Unit 2 and Unit 3. So if I cross multiply this, I'm going to have 40 times sine 32 degrees. Okay, so over here I got 40 times sine 32 degrees is going to be equal to, and then on this other side, it's going to be sine 39 degrees times B. All right, so sine 39 degrees times B. Okay, so that's what I have so far. All right, and then what I want to do, before I multiply these two, all right, I want to solve for B. I want to get B alone before I do any calculations, or else it's just going to get, because these come out out to be such long decimal numbers, it gets kind of messy. Okay, so before I do that, I'm going to solve for b. So over here I got sine 39 degrees times b. So to solve for b, I would do the opposite of multiplying. I'm going to divide by sine 39 degrees to get this to cancel out. And I'm doing the same thing over here. Divide by sine 39 degrees. Okay, if I do that, b is going to equal this right here. Okay, now it's just a matter of calculating. So in your calculator, you can go 40 times sine 32, all right, and it'll get you a really long decimal number. And then take that decimal number and divide it by sine of 39 degrees. All right, so we'll do that and we'll see what we end up with. All right, if we put that in our calculator, let's just check this out step by step. I'm going to do some rounding, so it's not going to come out exactly as if you leave the number in there. So we got 40 times sine of 32. Okay, so that's going to get you, let's go to the first 4 decimal places. We got 21.1968. Okay, so there's your number up on top. Underneath is just sine 39. So sine of 39 degrees. First 4 decimal places, we're going to have 0.6293. All right. Okay, so that's what we got after our first step. Now these 2 numbers would just end up getting divided. All right, so if we do that, 29.1968 divided by 0.6293, all right, is going to get me rounded 33.7 is equal to b. Okay, so that would be our answer for the length of b here. All right, now I kind of put it over here already. I paused the video for a second, so I put that over here. So that's what we got for b. All right, so we got one length solved for. We found out what b is. Now what we're going to do is repeat that same process, and we're going to figure out what c is going to be. All right, because that's the last side that we need. All right, so let's clear give me some space here to work. We're going to go to this one right here. Okay, so here we got like a clean space to work again. Now we're trying to figure out what the length of side C is. All right, so look at how much information I have here. I have quite a bit of information. I'm going to use the information I have for A to set up my fraction because I know that information originally, and then I'm going to set up a proportion with C. Okay, so let's go back and look at our formulas. Okay, so here's our formulas here, and if we take a look, this fraction equals this fraction and equals this fraction. Because they all equal each other, okay, it kind of goes back to the transitive property that we learned in like unit 2, I believe. Since all 3 equal each other, what that means is that we could say that sine A over top of A is also equal to sine C over top of C. Okay, so these we can set up as a proportion because it's a chain of everything being equal. So we can say that these 2 are also equal. All right, so we're going to set up our formula for side C using this proportion right here. Sine A over top of A is equal to sine C over top of the length of C. Okay, so we'll use this to set up our formula to find the length of C. Okay, so here's back to our triangle. Here's all of our information. So we're going to use this here. We're going to say sine of angle A over top of the length of A is equal to sine of angle C over top of the length of C. Okay, so there's going to be our proportion. Now that we got that set up, we're just going to fill in the numbers. All right, so sine of angle A, and angle A is 39 degrees, over top of the length of A, which is 40, is equal to sine of angle C, and angle C is 109 degrees, over top of the length of C. All right, and that's what we don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out, is what the length of C is going to come out to. All right, we got our proportions set up. Now it's the same exact steps that we just worked on the previous slide. We're going to cross multiply to start solving this. All right, so over here I'm going to have 40 times sine 109. All right, so I have 40 times sine 109 degrees is equal to, on this side, I'm going to have sine 39 times C. So sine 39 degrees times C. All right, so now we're down to that step. Just like we did before, we want to solve for C before we do any calculations so it doesn't create a mess. Okay, so we're going to get sine 39 over to this other side by canceling it out. So since we're multiplying, we'll do the opposite. We're going to divide by sine 39. Okay, divide this side by sine 39 degrees. All right, and when we do that, that cancels. Okay, so C is going to be equal to what we get here, all right? So I'm not going to show each calculation on this. We're just going to walk through it. So you're going to go 40 times sine 109, and then divide that by sine 39 degrees. Okay, so if you do that, if you take 40 times sine 109, divide that by 39 degrees, you're going to end up with, rounded, you're going to get 60.1. All right, and that would be your answer to C. So that would be our missing length there for C, would be 60.1. All right, so check that out, see if those calculations came out to what I got up here. And now we have all parts of that triangle solved because we know what all the missing sides and all the missing angles are. All right, that's it for our formula examples. I'm going to have you guys try one, see how you do, and then we will go from there. Well, actually, maybe I got one more example. Let me take a look. Oh, we do have one more example. Okay, so we got one more triangle to work through. So we'll do this one together. Notice what we have. If you take a look at the pieces of information you have here, we have a side-side angle. All right, so this time we're given side-side angle. So law of sines is going to be used to get this triangle solved. All right, and we're just trying to find what is the measure of each missing angle in this triangle. Okay, so let's relabel this triangle, and then we will go about using our formulas. Okay, so we can cross off these letters, and we'll just use the ones from our formulas. So we'll call this A, we'll call this C, and we'll call this B. All right, and then we'll label our sides. So across from angle A is side A, across from C is side C, and across from B is side B. Okay, so we got all parts of our triangle labeled. All right, and then let's make a list of all the information that we have. All right, so for angle A, we have that piece of information. It's 51 degrees. Side A, we have that piece of information. It's 8. Angle B, we don't know what that is, so we'll leave it blank. Side B, we have that information. It's 6. All right, and then angle C, we don't have that information. Side C, we don't have that information either. Okay, so take a look at what we have. We have a complete set of information for our A's. We know angle A and we know side A. And we only have one piece of information for our B's. We just know the length of side B. Okay, so going back to my formula, the first thing I want to solve for is angle B because I have just that piece of information missing for our B's. Okay, so we're going to set up our proportions using the A's and the B's. So let's go back and take a look at our formulas. So we're going to be using this proportion right here. Sine of A over top of A is equal to sine of B over top of B. So we're going to set up our proportions like this. So let's take that information and start filling in the numbers that we need. Okay, so we're using sine of A over top of little a is equal to sine of B over top of the length of B. Okay, so now fill in the numbers that you have. So I know what angle A is, so I have sine of angle A, which is 51 degrees, over top of the length of A, which is 8, is equal to sine of B. Angle B, I don't know what it is, so I'm leaving this as sine of B over top of the length of B, which is 6. Okay, so there's all the pieces of information that I have. Now I'm just going to go about finding what this missing angle is going to be. So we got our proportions set up, so we're going to cross multiply. Okay, so when we cross multiply over on this side, we're going to get 8 times sine B. All right, so we have 8 times sine B is equal to, and on this side over here, we're going to have sine 51 degrees times 6. So sine of 51 degrees times 6. Okay, so that's what we have so far. All right, and just like what we did before, we want to get our variable alone. So we want to get sine B. We want to solve for sine B. So since we're multiplying sine B by 8, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide by 8 and divide this over here by 8. Okay, so if we do that, our 8's cancel, and we're left with sine of B is going to be equal to this calculation right here. Okay, and we're going to do that just all at once here. All right, so we're going to take sine of 51 degrees times 6, and then take that answer and divide it by 8. Okay, and when we do that, we're going to round it to the first 4 decimal places that we have. Okay, so if you take that sine 51 degrees times 6 divided by 8, you're going to end up with 0.5829. Okay, so that's telling us sine of B is 0.5829. Okay, so we're going to use that to figure out our angle size. So what that's telling you, this is your sine ratio for B. So your sine ratio for B came out to this number when it was calculated, 0.5829. So we're going to take what that ratio equals, and we're going to use, like we did yesterday, we're going to use our inverse sine button on our calculator to figure out what angle size this ratio would be. All right, so I'm going to say the inverse trig ratio for sine of 0.5829, and if I put that in the calculator, we'll figure out what our angle size is going to be. All right, so if you remember those buttons from yesterday, hit your second button, sine with the -1 up on top of it, and then put in your decimal number, and then that's going to get you rounded. It's going to get us 36 degrees, all right, to the nearest whole angle. All right, so angle B is 36 degrees. All right, and now that we know 2 of the angles, so angle B, we can say this one's 36. We can quickly figure out what our last angle is. We don't have to go through all these steps again because all 3 angles of a triangle would add up to 180 degrees. So we can do some simple math to figure out what our last one's going to come out to. So we can take the ones we know so far. We have 51 degrees plus 36 degrees. All right, and those 2 are going to come out to 87. So we can take 180 minus 87, and that's going to get us 93 degrees. Okay, so that would be our size of angle C would be 93 degrees. All right, nice. job, guys, getting that worked out. Hopefully that worked out okay for you, all those calculations. Now I got one for you guys to do, and then we'll take a look at your answer and see how you're doing on using law of sines. Okay, so for this one here, let's get you guys organized and get some information. So you're trying to find the length of NP. Okay, so let's take a look at this triangle. Let's see what we have. The information we have an angle, angle, side. All right, so angle, angle, side. That means law of sines is going to be one that we're going to use. Okay, and then we can go around and label the different parts of our triangle here. So if you can label it how you want to, but using the A, B, and C, we'll label it just like that diagram. Okay, so we have that. And then label your sides. Straight across from A is side A, and then side C, and then straight across from B is that right there. Okay, so that gets you a start. Now list out all the information that you have, and then figure out how you're going to set up your proportion to end up solving for side C here. All right, so take a few minutes, work that out, and hit pause on the video, and then we'll see what you guys came up with. All right, let's take a look at how this ended up working out and how you guys did on this law of sines calculation. Okay, so what we ended up using, if we take a look at the information we have a complete set of information for our A's, because we know angle A and we know the length of side A. And then for C, we don't really care too much about B because they're just asking us to find what the length of C was. All right, so like the length of NP. So for C, we know it's 88 degrees, and we're trying to find the length of side C. So our proportion that we're going to set up is sine A over top of A is equal to sine C over top of C. Okay, and that's kind of what we got set up here with the numbers filled in. All right, so here's our sine A over top of little a is equal to sine C over top of little c. All right, and now that we got that, we end up cross multiplying. All right, so here we got 22 times sine 88 degrees on one side, and on this other side we have sine 39 times C. All right. Okay, and then what they ended up doing is solving for C, so they had to cancel off sine 39 degrees. So they divided both sides by sine 39, and it ended up being C is equal to 22 times sine 88 degrees divided by sine 39 degrees. Okay, so once they put all that in the calculator and then they rounded, they ended up with 34.9, and that would be your length of C here, would be 34.9. All right, hopefully that worked out for you okay. If not, reach out to me with some questions, and I can help you figure out how to do these. All right. Let's see if I got the assignment posted here. Oh yeah, your assignment for today, you got 4.3 worksheet. That's up there in Google Classroom. Work on that. The answer key's posted so you can check your work. And if you get stuck, let me know. Otherwise, hopefully I get to see you guys next time for some in-person learning. Okay, thanks for watching.